Hello! Welcome to the Polyglot Files. My name is Michael, and today we're talking about an unpopular opinion that I have about language learning. It has taken me a long time to come to terms with this, but the truth is in the title of today's video. I hate flashcards. But wait a second, Michael, you might be saying. How can you hate something that's so popular in the language learning community? Well, I have 3 reasons. Number 1. Flashcards are boring. Number 2, reviewing flashcards can be overwhelming. Number 3, flashcards can be devoid of context and not even show real language usage. If you follow me on social media or you've watched videos on this channel, then you know that I find the whole process of creating and organizing and reviewing flashcards to be quite tedious. Maintaining flashcard decks just take a lot of work. You gotta find the words, you gotta put them in the flashcard deck, then you have to review it, and it's not like a one and done thing. You have to keep reviewing and keep reviewing and keep reviewing, or else it's all been done in vain. And oftentimes, the prep work for flashcards feels like wasted time. Like if I have only a half an hour set aside for language learning, I don't necessarily want to use that time compiling word lists into flashcards. I want to do something that's a little bit more exciting. Secondly, not only do I find the act of creating and reviewing flashcards kind of tedious, but I also think that flashcard reviews can be really overwhelming. When I dabbled in Japanese in the winter of 2019, one of the first things I did was create a flashcard deck on Anki, a flashcard app. In fact, everything was great for the first little while, but then I missed a day. And then I missed a day a couple days later. And then exams came and I missed a whole bunch of days. By the time I got back to my Anki flashcard deck, I saw that I had hundreds of words that had to be reviewed. Instead of actively learning Japanese, I found that I was getting stuck in these review spirals, and I wasn't enjoying myself and I wasn't really learning anything new. After a while, I gave up on Japanese and on Anki flashcards altogether. And number 3, why I hate flashcards. They can be completely devoid of context and not actually teach you real usage of the language you're learning. I've noticed this problem most with languages that I have studied almost completely on my own, such as German or Russian. Over the years, I've used multiple flashcard decks to try and boost my vocabulary in these languages, but single words on a flashcard make active learning of these words pretty tricky. Otherwise said, even though I may be able to know the meaning of a word when it comes up in my flashcard deck, when it comes to actively using that word in a real conversation, it's almost as if I haven't learned that word at all. This is because I haven't learned the word in the context of the language itself. I've only ever memorized it on a flashcard independent of the real language. What good is that? So, with all this flashcard hate, it must mean that I don't use flashcards in my everyday language learning regimen, right? Wrong. Plot twist, I hate flashcards, but I still use them, and they are a valuable part of my language learning routine. In fact, flashcards, when used correctly and when used as part of a larger language learning regimen, are an indispensable part of language learning. I have used flashcards in many forms over the years, starting with physical flashcards and then moving on to flashcard apps like Memrise, and then moving into more robust flashcard programs such as Anki. None of these programs, however, were able to hit the spot and become a long-term staple in my language learning routine. In fact, I realized that if I was going to continue to use flashcards as part of my routine, I would need to address what I disliked about them. To do that, I needed to find the perfect companion for my needs. Enter SmartCards Plus, the sponsor of today's video. With SmartCards Plus, I was able to have complete control over the flashcard process to make it work for me. Let's look again at the 3 reasons why I hate flashcards, and then we'll talk about how I've used SmartCards Plus to counter these issues. Number 1, I have made flashcards more interesting for myself by making the entire process of creating and reviewing flashcards more engaging. Before, I would just make long lists of words in my target language, and then I would take those words and their meanings and put them on flashcards. For me, that is mind-numbingly boring. But now, I make this process into a speaking and writing exercise. For example, I recently watched a video from Russian with Max, and he was taking us on a tour of his apartment that he was living in China. Rather than simply copying down words I didn't know and translating them, I actually uploaded a picture of a kitchen into SmartCards Plus, and using the vocabulary that I learned from Russian with Max's video, I described the picture of the kitchen on the flashcard as a writing exercise. Now, in my flashcard reviews, that picture comes up, and I'm able to describe that kitchen in Russian, as well as have the translation for what I wrote originally on the flashcard. I also make flashcard creation fun by adding audio and making it into a speaking exercise. Rather than writing down words or phrases, I simply record them. That means that when I'm doing my reviews, these audio cards come up, and I'm able to do two things. Number one, I can listen to what I said and translate, and number two, I can actually critique my own accent and add new recordings as I get better in the language. A couple times, I have even downloaded audio clips from the internet and put those as flashcards. In fact, by doing this, I am not only making the process of creating flashcards fun and fruitful, but I am also learning these words in context while I'm creating the flashcard. For example, rather than just learning a single word on its own, such as the Russian word for island, ostrov, I actually write down a sentence. Я живу на острове. This allows me to learn the words in context, and I even include photos to help jog my memory. Thirdly, one of the best features about SmartCards Plus is the control that it gives me over my flashcard review sessions. Gone are the days when I open up a flashcard app, see 250 words due for review, and then close the app because I am completely overwhelmed by what I'm seeing. We all know that flashcards work because, when used correctly, they effectively hack the memory processes of our brain. The theory is that in order to learn something and have it pass into your long-term memory, you need to keep repeating the same information over and over and over again. Flashcards allow us to bypass the natural process of learning these words and constructions in the wild, or in real conversations or books. Through technology such as spaced repetition, our brains learn new words and constructions much quicker. The only problem is that spaced repetition sometimes does too good of a job. This means that flashcard apps often overextend, recognizing that you may need to memorize hundreds of words in a given day in order to keep them in your long-term memory. SmartCards Plus, however, is unique. Yes, it does use spaced repetition to recognize that words are due for review. However, the user has control over this spaced repetition so that the program doesn't space repetition itself out of control. In the review panel of each deck with SmartCards Plus, you can not only choose how many cards you would like to learn, but you could also choose which cards you would like to learn. For example, you can create custom tags on SmartCards Plus so that you only review certain groups of vocabulary, such as household vocabulary, or outdoor vocabulary, or certain verb groups or conjugation patterns. You can also choose to review cards that only have a certain recall strength, meaning that you might only want to review cards that you don't know that well. You can choose to require a typed answer for each flashcard, or you can choose to review only cards that you get right 50% of the time. You can even choose how far back you'd like to go when you're reviewing forgotten items, because sometimes we all have those days, and we don't want to be reminded of our long-term shortcomings. The point is that SmartCards Plus gave me the power to not be discouraged by all the flashcards I should be reviewing. In fact, these custom reviews that you control count toward your spaced repetition algorithm, so the app keeps up with you rather than the other way around. Because sure, science, spaced repetition is something we know that works. But if the spaced repetition is creating flashcard decks that are so overwhelming that it's actually deterring you from learning new vocabulary in your target language, then that's a problem. In my opinion, SmartCards Plus can help bring the magic back. SmartCards Plus is available at the Apple Store for iPhone, iPad, and Apple Watch. Users can import their already ready-made decks from Anki or Quizlet, or they can create decks of their own, like how I've done. If you want to learn more about SmartCards Plus and incorporate it in your language learning routine, check out the link in the description. So maybe I don't really hate flashcards. We're more like frenemies. Alright, that's all I have for you today. Feel free to check me out on social media. I have a Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as usual, thank you for watching the Polyglot Files. I will see you next time. Goodbye! It's more like a pose, not like a dance. Like a model scenario.